we were looking for importing content. Okay, so here's importing content, importing related content, importing multilingual content, importing categories, all sorts of good stuff there. So if we click on importing content, all of these pieces of documentation are very, very content. They've got a lot of images on them and everything like that. So here is importing a CSV file, importing images. And if we go down here to importing images, all you'd have to do is supply the path to the images that you've already uploaded, but it would require that you WebDAV I showed you WebDAV earlier, CyberDuck yesterday, how you could, or through Finder, you could drag and drop images over. And then once they're over to the server, then you could go ahead and just show the path in your CSV file to your images, and then it would connect those as well. But I'm just going to do, I guess I'll use movies. I could use something else, but that's as easy as anything else. And we did it yesterday, so you guys will recognize some of the titles. And I think the easiest thing to do is just go ahead and do an export of content so that I can actually see the CSV file and I can see how the data was formulated. I've got another guy I was using before here. Okay. So if you can see, I just exported our movies from yesterday. It tells me the identifier of the piece of content. This is really, really important to leave this in if you want to update the movies that we made yesterday, that movie content or whatever content you're trying to import, right? And it shows me the path to my current binary images and stuff like that. But I'm not going to try and upload images at the same time, so I'll just delete that. Hopefully poster is not required. Let me see if it's required. We'll leave the posters off for now. Just make it a quick example here. Movies and poster, are you required? You're not required anyway. Okay. So now let's just say I'm going to do something really simple. I'm going to do movie title 1, and then Excel is nice enough to go ahead and do something like that for me. And then I'm going to leave all of those genres so I don't have to go back and add them. I'll leave those tags, and then description, I'll just go ahead and put movie description 1. And then do that and make it easy on myself. So now I'm ready to import this, and I'll just put, Dean's tag. Dean's tag. Okay. And okay. And I will file and save as on my desktop as movie import. That's CSV, right? Yes, yes. And that's fine. Okay, so I'm done with that. I don't need to save that anymore. And now I'm going to go here to import content this time, right? Now, whenever you do an import and you're looking at a certain content type, it will actually move straight to the import with that content type selected, but you could choose any of the other content types that you have permissions to. Normally, this will only, for a typical content publisher, you'll only see maybe 2 or 3 things here. We're logged in as the God level guy, so he sees everything. He sees all. Now, this is very, very important to understand. Here you could make a language switch. So if you wanted to do a complete list of Spanish, content, if you wanted to use English content, obviously, if you've already imported the content and then you're going to do a Spanish version, you need to leave that identifier there so it knows that you're updating the existing English content. You're adding a Spanish version of the content. And if it's a multilingual file, you're uploading English and Spanish, then you could click multilingual, and then you have to include the language codes that were on our export originally. Then the key fields here. If you are updating content and you didn't export, you don't have an identifier column. If you have an identifier column, then that's easy. It's going to just match the exact identifier on the piece of content. But let's say you don't have the identifier column and you want to update content. Maybe you've got an exported list into Excel from some other system, and that other system doesn't have your identifiers, but you need to import that list from the other system and update. So you could say wherever the title is exactly the same and the genre is exactly the same, and then it would actually do a cumulative search for both of those fields. And it would say if both the title and the genres match exactly, then I will update the content. Otherwise, I'm going to create a new movie in this case. That makes sense? So what you would want to do is you want to make sure you select one or more, that the combination of those fields used as key fields would definitely match only one and one piece of content in the system. And if you can't do that, then your content doesn't have sufficient fields that can properly search and make sure that it's a unique return. But the preview will show you if your key fields you're using aren't sufficient enough to match one and only one piece of content. Then I would say the workflow action that I want to do whenever I import my content, and this would respect my permissions. If I didn't have permissions to the save and publish action, it wouldn't even show there. It would only show the save. Then I choose my CSV import, and then I go to preview, or I can download a CSV example for the movie's content type, and this one will be blank. That's kind of why I like using the export instead of this one, because it actually shows me the content within, and then I can play around with the content or add new content. So it does give you an export starter file, but that's why I like the export maybe a little bit better. So I'm going to choose from my desktop. I'm going to choose that movie. I thought I saved it to desktop. Maybe I did desktop. I had a whole bunch of junk in there. Boy, I need to clear off my desktop. Okay, this time let me open it again. File, open recent, movies import CSV, file, save as, desktop, continue. And there we go. I see it now. So I saved it somewhere else, I guess, the last time. And I'm zoomed in on my screen here, so I need to zoom out, I think. A minute here. There, let me just double click it. There we go. And now that I've chosen that, movies import, I can go to preview. And then I can say, okay, four headers were found that match, that file matches on all of the content type fields. So that's all good. 19 lines of data were read. And the system tells you I am attempting to create 19 new contentlets. Check below for errors if there are any. There are not any errors. But it also gives you warnings that won't stop your, the guy from importing. But and then the warnings are really nothings. They said no key fields were chosen. If you wanted to update content, then this could result in duplicated content because you didn't choose anything to match up with. The content type field title is unique. So be careful, it's saying if you give me two field titles that are exactly the same in your import file, hey, this is unique, and it's going to error out here, if you do that, but no errors were detected. Not all of the content type fields match the file headers. Some fields may be empty, and that's why the poster will be empty, because I chose not to hassle with that. That's fine, so I'm going to import my content. And it's importing content, and then it says, hey, success, 19 new movies were created. You could do another import or say you're done importing. I'm done importing. And because I chose the publish instead of the save, all of my 19 movie titles got uploaded, and they also got published at the same time, And you can see that not only did the movie title get populated, the movie description, but also my categories, my tags, everything. Except the poster, which I said I'm not going to mess with. I didn't want to upload a bunch of posters and then have to choose their path and put that in the file. I wanted to be as quick about this as I could. But if I would have chosen paths to a poster, then I could have done that too. I would have needed to, though, change the binary field and make it into a file field. Okay. to do that, but that's your webmaster's job if they're going to have you importing images. You'd have to actually give every row on your Excel file this path. Let me show you. Okay, so yesterday in training, if I wanted to update one of those guys with, let's just say this Ratatouille image, then I would have had to give it this exact path. You would have to, the step to do importing of content with that would be a two-step process. You'd have to and insert and poster, and then that would have to be there, if that makes sense. So the first step would have been what we did yesterday. Either by WebDAV, you'd drag all 25 files, right? Then you'd have to, just copy and paste the same stem because it would all be the same. And then you just have to put your movie title at the end. You could even have another row in Excel and just, have all your image titles and then, kind of join them together and make a new field and then erase them. But yeah, you'd have to have this for every single one of your movies that you're going to import. And as long as that really was the path on the dotCMS, relatively. Can't I Control V that? I guess I can't. I guess if I just copy it down, then that's going to do it. Yeah. Yeah, and then these have to be real paths on the dotCMS.
Okay.
Yeah. And you wouldn't be able to do that, I don't think, for a binary field. So let me discuss real quickly the difference between a binary field and a file field. So file or image field both work the same. So actually, let me use an image field. Where's the image field? There we go. So now right underneath poster, I'm going to add an image field, and I'll just put this a screenshot or something like that of the movie. And if your webmaster gives you instead of a binary field that makes the image kind of part of the content, if the webmaster gives you a screenshot, an image field, then you're going to have to browse for the image currently on the dotCMS. So the difference is, if I had a poster field, then I can go to demo and add a new poster, and instantly it loads right there into the binary field, and I have the image editor. So this would be Rango. The binary lets you just load it directly from your computer into the field on the piece of content. And it actually, even though they're both the same type of file actually in the file system, they both live in the assets directory and they store the same way. This one actually lives right here in the content, is editable and removable from the binary. And now let me show you the image field that I just added called screenshot and how it's different. Okay. So here I have to browse for it, and it has to sit here. It doesn't, with the binary field, I just uploaded it right from my computer. I did not upload it to this images directory. So let me choose my training directory, Dean G. I want to get my images. And so there's my images I uploaded yesterday. So I don't have Rango or anything about Rango over here. So I can upload a new file. Okay, and I can upload it to dotCMS from, so I'll just put whatever because it's a different image, but I'll put shape of water over here. Okay, so now I'm going to upload that to the system, and then I'll select it. Okay, now this image, you notice I don't have any image editor here at all. I can't do anything because this doesn't live here. It lives outside of this piece of content. And if I'm going to do anything with it other than tie it to this piece of content, I have to go out, go to the site browser, and go to the images directory, open up shape of water, and then I can edit the image right here from this separate piece of content that is a file type content. Make sense? Just two different ways. It depends upon where you want to set. Now, you might say, well, why would you ever use an image field instead of a binary field? Well, what if you want to create a photo gallery and you want to pass the photo gallery just a path to your images? Well, you can't do that with a binary field. The binary images live inside the content. For my documentation site, I don't ever want these images to live in a folder. I want them all to live exactly in my documentation content so that I just go to the piece of documentation, I update every single one, I save and publish, done, right? I don't want to have to be traveling over to a folder to update these document images, right? Make sense? So it depends upon what you're doing with your images. I'm never going to create a photo gallery of document images. So the use case doesn't even apply for me at all for storing the images outside of my content. Okay, so now that was importing content.